Yep.
Okay. The Mac Observer's Mac Geek Gab episode 851 for January 4th, 2021. Happy New Year, folks. Greetings, folks, and welcome to the Mac Observer's Mac Geek Gab, the show you know. Well, if you're new to the show, you don't know. If you're not, welcome back. Because we're the show where you send in your tips, your questions, your cool stuff found. We take those, we mix them all together into an agenda, answering your questions, sharing your tips, sharing your cool stuff found. The goal is for each of us, you, me, him, that person over there, all of us that are listening or participating in creating this show. The goal is that we each learn at least 5 new things every single time we get together. Sponsors for this episode include helixsleep.com/MGG, mintmobile.com/MGG, barebones.com/holiday bundle, which we'll tell you more about, and textexpander.com/podcast. We'll talk more about all of those in a minute here. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire in 2021, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here in Fairfield, Connecticut, also in 2021, this is John F. Ron.
It's good to be in temporal sync with one another. And Happy New Year, my friend. Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes. Yeah, you too.
Thanks, man.
Oh, boy.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, so we had some software issues, I think.
Right. So no one listening actually knows any of this, but yeah, it took us quite a bit to get the show going today, which we might talk about a little bit later. But for now, Mark has a good quick tip for us, and that is Flash is dead. Adobe has sunsetted Flash. They say that they're going to make it like disable itself or something. But Mark reminds us that it is time to uninstall Flash. And so we will put a link in the show notes for you to do that. You download the little uninstaller if you don't already have it, which you might. But if you don't, then you download the little uninstaller and uninstall Flash, and you're done. There are still Flash websites out there. So much so that on my, so much so, I think I encountered one. But I did make Flash work on my M1 Air, John, by downloading Chrome. I think I talked about this on the show. I downloading Chrome and then checking the run this in Rosetta box, because running Chrome in not Rosetta would not, like in native Apple Silicon mode, would not work for Flash. But running it in Rosetta mode would, I guess, which I guess makes sense. I don't know. I feel like it should work, but whatever. I don't know. Anyway, go uninstall Flash. Hopefully nobody relies on it anymore. And if they do, well, 2021 is going to very, very, very quickly be a rude awakening for them. So there you go.
Yeah. I removed it long ago per the insistence of our own Jeff Gamet.
Sure. Yeah.
I think the problem was it had, security holes like Swiss cheese. So
it did. Yeah. But, Flash gets a bad rap. It mostly gets a bad rap, I think, because of its lack of power efficiency, right? But Flash was designed for a time when the web was non-interactive in any other way, and the web was all desktop, right? There were no truly mobile devices at the time, so power wasn't as much of a concern. Of course, it was on our laptops, but Flash opened the door for interactive websites, the things that we do now, even things like Google Docs and Google Sheets, all of that stuff would not have happened. There was no HTML5, but now there is. So it's good. Like, we just keep iterating. It's all good. You have a quick tip for us, don't you, John, from Tanel?
Oh, I think I do. And I remember Steve also wasn't crazy about Flash on iOS, and that was probably a good decision.
Yeah, from a power standpoint. Yeah, I think that was.
Tanel says, some episodes ago, you asked the community to provide examples of how they use Siri. As a non-native speaker of English, I use Siri for language advice. When I come upon a fancy word I do not know, I just shout out, "Hey, S-lady, define the word." Very useful and much faster than reaching for my Oxford English Dictionary. That's cool.
Yeah.
My daughter uses it for her English homework. Hey, S lady, how do I spell this word? Or for her Russian and French homework. Wow, Russian and French? Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, S lady, how to say English word in Russian or French?
Wow.
Wow, I didn't even know it could do that. That is really impressive.
That's cool. Yeah, I had no idea. Wow. That's cool. All right. Cool. I am going to try something here, John. We did have an issue. We do have an issue with our Mimo Live connection that we usually use, or our Mimo call connection. And so today we're using Zoom. But one thing we did not do is turn on original audio. So I'm going to attempt that here, John, live, and hopefully it doesn't break things. Talk to me.
I'm talking to you.
I don't know that changed anything for you. If you go into your Zoom window, John, this is a thing where Zoom will allow higher quality audio. Right. If you go into your Zoom window and sort of float over it so that the things come up, do you have a turn on original sound in the upper left?
In the upper left?
Yeah. Like
I have stop video, mute my audio, pin, rename, hide self view.
Okay, so you don't get the option to turn on original sound. Okay. All right. Well, that's fine.
You're not.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Well, hold on. There's mute my audio.
I mean, you sound good. I just, you know how it is. I obsess over making the audio sound fantastic.
I'm looking. I mean, there's audio settings.
No, this would be just on the main Zoom screen where you've got like at the lower middle, you've got the share screen button. And then in the upper left, you should see the little green security check mark. And then.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
And then next to that, is there anything about original sound or no?
No.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Maybe I don't know. Maybe there's an advanced setting or something. I didn't think so, though. All right. Anyway, we'll move on. It's all good. You sound fine. I just like, I like to make sure we get the best that we possibly can for our listeners. All right, let's go to some questions, shall we? Here we will start with Bill, and listener Bill asks us. Boy, there are a lot of Bills in today's show. It's the show's about the Bills. Bill asks. He says, I'm trying to organize my photos. I want to move from iCloud storage to local copies so I can edit them more easily. I want to put the local copies onto an external drive since they wouldn't fit on my 256 gig SSD with only 115 gigs available. My photos currently use 238 gigs on iCloud at the moment. Is this possible? So the answer is yes. Back to Bill. He says, my thought was to do the following. Quit the Photos app on the Mac, move my Photos library from my home directory pictures to somewhere on the external drive. Okay. Yep. Then hold down the Option key and launch the Photos app. Yep. Select the Photos library on the external drive. And then in Photos Preferences, click the Use as System Library button to make this my default library. All of that sounds very good, Bill. You're heading down the right path. Bill says, when I do that, I get the following warning. Switching the system photo library will turn off iCloud Photos. Any photos and videos that have not been fully downloaded will be removed from this Mac and shared albums will be disabled. Turn on iCloud Photos for this new system photo library in Preferences. He says, this scares me. Nothing has been downloaded to my knowledge since I have optimized Mac storage selected. I have thumbnails in my local Photos library file, but it is only 16 gigs, so I'm sure I don't have everything that is in the cloud. This makes it look like things are going to get messed up. Help. Yeah. So the path you're taking, Bill, is absolutely correct. And this is the path that I've taken both on my machines, my family's machines, and of course on, clients' machines or anybody I'm helping with their computers. And this is the right path to take. You just need to do, in fact, exactly what Apple says. Once you change the system library, then you need to go re-enable iCloud Photos because iCloud Photos always maps to the system library. And once you do that, then you can change that checkbox or that radio button, I suppose, from optimized storage to download everything. And then it will start the process of slurping things down that may take a few days because it throttles things at times. But that will do it in theory. I mean, of course, there could be other problems. Let's hope there aren't. But that's the right path to take for sure. So, So there you go. Thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, if you don't have enough space on your drive for your photos, which I do, so one thing is maybe get a larger drive than you need. But my photo library fits comfortably on my 1 terabyte SSD.
Yeah, I actually, if you're running off of a laptop, I suppose that's good. If the laptop is your only machine, I think that's great advice, in fact, because I like to have a local copy of my photos library. I like the safety in it, all of that stuff. But if you're getting any sort of desktop machine, it like the price of buying storage from Apple versus the price of buying storage from any third party really is such a delta that I actually don't think that's good advice. I think I would advise that people, again, for a laptop, you know, that you're stuck with that, right? And you don't want to have to cart a drive around with you. So there you go. Especially not for your system library, because that needs to be connected all the time. But for a desktop machine, put it on external. Leave the space on your internal drive free, even if you've got the space, I think. I don't know. Maybe there's a way. All right. Okay.
Now, we do get a suggestion here from our chat room, which, Dave, I believe is at live.macgeekgab.com.
That is true.
I do see this option now if I dig into Zoom. Show in-meeting options to enable original sound from microphone. Should I click that?
Sure. What could possibly go wrong?
And now it says turn on original sound. Do I want to do that?
Sure. Try that. Let's see if we hear a difference.
Okay. Turn on original sound. This is now original sound.
Aha. You got quieter, which is interesting. I'm not sure if that's better. Talk to me a little bit, John.
Okay. I'm going to talk to you. And then I see some additional options. Disable echo cancellation, high fidelity music mode, and use stereo audio. They are all unchecked.
I would say we might be able to get better audio out of you long-term with this. Short-term, it's going to take some tweaking because there's some background noise that's coming in. So go ahead and go back to what you had for this episode at the very least.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Now we'll bring your level back down. There we go. Good. You want to take us to Craig, John?
I will take us to Craig. Craig says, I want to set up a wireless network on my boat. Wow. I should get a boat.
You should get a boat. It's a good pandemic purchase.
I mean, we have a marina. So, but yeah, I think there's a waiting list to get a
slip
to talk to your boat. I want to set up a wireless network on my boat. And I was wondering if you have any suggestions. It's just going to be used to connect my iPhones and iPads together and to AirPlay to an Apple TV. The range is very short, not more than 20 feet, and I would like to avoid the units with several antennas sticking out. I know there are emerging new technologies out there now, but I suspect that I will not be needing anything special for what I'm trying to accomplish. If you have any suggestions, I appreciate your input. My initial suggestion, Dave, and this is what I used in the past as my travel router, is maybe get an Airport Express. Here's the only thing with the Airport Express is the last one that they released only supports 802.11n, which is not the latest.
Do they even sell Airport Expresses anymore? I mean, Apple.
You can get them off eBay.
Okay.
I don't think you can get them from the refurb store anymore.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't.
They have spots, but nothing shows up there.
Yeah.
But then I thought I'd do a little search here, Dave, and I found something that actually I bought one because it looks really cool. And it was recommended in a couple of articles that summarized what we're going to call travel routers, which a travel router is one that doesn't have all the antennas sticking out all over the place because you don't want to travel with something like that.
Sure, yeah.
So I found something from TP-Link called the TLWR902AC. Ooh, AC, that's good. And they describe it as an AC 750 wireless travel router. And Dave, if you're looking at this now, the link, which we'll put in the show notes.
Yeah.
This has so many features for such little money that I couldn't resist getting one. So transfers any internet connection into a private AC 750 dual band Wi-Fi network, compact router, fits travel. Yeah. It supports 2.4 and 5 gigs. It has a USB port so you can share files or charge devices, and all sorts of other features. But and you can get
Wow.
it from it's like $40. So I couldn't resist getting one. So the next time I travel, I'm going to
Now what?
bring
Yeah.
this little guy with me.
So that would be my piece of curiosity. Like, what's your use case for it? We know Craig's, which I think is actually great because, short range, good to go, right? So what are you going to use this for?
I used it in the past to when I travel with friends. Sometimes I would bring one of these so I could share the internet that was not free at the time. Now, in most cases, you know, if you get a hotel room, you get Wi-Fi as well.
Yeah.
But you may be able to get better Wi-Fi depending on the hotel you go to by plugging into a wired connection versus the hotel Wi-Fi. And some hotels that I've been to offer a wired connection. So.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Fair. Yeah.
I don't know if does this have an Ethernet port on it?
It looks to.
It does.
Yes. It looks to have an Ethernet port. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be a use case, is you could get better performing, potentially better performing Wi-Fi and share it with your friends.
Sure.
Or everybody in the hotel.
Yeah. Cool. I like it. All right. You're on a roll, man. Why don't you take us to Robert?
Yes. Oh, this was a head scratcher. All right. So Robert, let me get Robert here. Here we go. Longtime fan. Oh, thank you. In the past, Safari had a hamburger in what I think is called the address bar, the place to enter a URL to go to a page on the internet. When the site loaded, a user could click on the hamburger and the site would display only text, which could then be copied to another app like Preview or Word. No graphics would be copied. I don't seem to be able to find this or similar options using Big Sur on my M1 Mac Mini 2020. Any suggestions? Yes. So this is actually called Dave Reader View. And it looks like the behavior isn't new in Safari 14, which you can is the latest version, and that the hamburger, which I think is actually, it's a page that has lines of text on it, but I like hamburger, will appear on some websites and not on others. A couple of options. If you want reader view from a specific page, you can go to View, Show Reader View, or hit the keyboard equivalent, which is Shift-Command-R. You can also, in Safari, go to Preferences, Websites, Reader, and it will show the websites that it's enabled for. But that could get kind of tedious. There's also a When Visiting Other Websites option, and you can set this to on, which should, actually, it doesn't show the hamburger. It actually will bring up any page in Reader View initially, and then if you click, it'll show you the actual page behind it. So I think it's just, I don't know if you know what the criteria is to show that reader view icon, Dave.
I don't. I thought that reader view icon. I thought that hamburger menu went away pre-Catalina. Like I don't.
It may have. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's there at all anymore. But I could be wrong on that. I have not seen it. If you want to go to reader view, it's view, Command Shift R, right? Show reader. Or like you said, you can go to settings for this website. I always get to website settings by right clicking in the address bar and going to settings, and then you can say use reader when available.
Right.
And but that might not be the right way to do it. So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it does appear some of the time, and I'm just not seeing it. But yeah, that's where yeah. I haven't looked for it, so I don't know. Like I'm trying to think if I go to news websites, does it appear anywhere? Yeah, I guess it does. Yeah, no, it does. You're right. It appears there, the little hamburger menu. And you're right. I don't know what there might be. It might be looking for a certain amount percentage-wise of text on the page versus, graphics or other elements, because it appears like I loaded a very short article. Brian Chaffin put up a quick little Happy New Year article on Mac Observer, and the hamburger menu did not appear there. But looking at, for example, Dr. Mac's experience with an Apple Silicon M1 Mac works like the reader thing shows up just fine there. So I think it's when Safari realizes it can do good by changing to reader mode for the user, then it will show that menu. So
yeah, like for example, the TP-Link page that I just went to.
Yeah.
It does show up on that one.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I guess it looks at the HTML and like this one here, it has, a bullet list. So maybe it looks for something like that, saying, oh, that may be something I can deal with.
Something we can make better with reader view. Yeah. I like it. All right, John, I would love to, we have tons more questions. In fact, we got some cold storage archiving stuff that I think will be relevant, and some might even get some migration stuff. But we've got cool stuff found coming, lots of stuff. What I want to do right now, John, is I would love to talk about our first two sponsors, if that works for you, my friend.
Please do.
All right. Look, we know that some of you have written us to tell us that you listen to Mac Geek Gab while you go to sleep, and then you rewind when you wake up and catch up. That's fine. That's actually how Pilot Pete started listening to the show, He may still listen that way as far as I know. Well, why would you want to fall asleep after listening to all the great content here? Why would you want to fall asleep on an uncomfortable mattress? Well, you don't have to. Since I think November, we've been sleeping on a Helix mattress at the house. And what's really cool is we took the Helix Quiz and we were matched with the Midnight model mattress because we wanted something sort of medium for side sleepers, right? And actually, both Lisa and I went through the quiz that they have on the Helix site. It's really fun and it's really quick. And we both came up with the same thing, which was great. But they ask you questions like about you and your partner, if you sleep with a partner and that sort of thing. So and then the mattress arrived and it delivers. Man, does it deliver. It's fantastic. Really, really great the way that they allow you to customize what you're getting for what you like. And you need to just go to helixsleep.com/MGG. That's where you're going to take this 2-minute sleep quiz. They'll match you to your customized mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. And Helix is offering up to $200 off of all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners here at Mac Geek Gab. You go to helixsleep.com/MGG, and our thanks to Helix Sleep for sponsoring this episode. After the year we've all been through, saving money should be at the top of everyone's resolution list, right? So if you're still paying insane amounts of money every month for wireless, what are you doing? Switching to Mint Mobile is the easiest way to save this year. And as the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you maximize your savings with plans starting at just $15 a month. And that's because they're online only, right? They've eliminated the traditional costs of retail. And of course, Mint Mobile passes those savings on to you. They even have Mint Family now, which we've been using amongst the 4 of us. It's great. Each person, you set up an individual account, so you get to pick which level of data everybody wants, and then one account can manage the whole thing. And that was a game changer for us here, so it might be for you too. You get to bring your own phone with Mint Mobile, and if you're not 100% satisfied, Mint Mobile has you covered with their 7-day money-back guarantee. Switch to Mint Mobile, get that premium wireless service just at $15 a month, and get the plan shipped to your door for free. Go to mintmobile.com/MGG. That's mintmobile.com/MGG. You can cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/MGG. And our thanks to Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode. All right, John, it's time for some cold storage-ing. Cold storing? I don't know. First question comes from Dennis. He says, I have some old clone backups that I want to archive on my Synology disk station. I assume this requires creating a disk image of the clone so that I can move the file to my Synology. Correct me if that is wrong. Assuming that is correct, though, should I create the disk image with Carbon Copy Cloner or Disk Utility, or doesn't it matter? And next, I see that I have some options for that disk image. Carbon Copy Cloner lets me do read-write sparse bundle disk image or read-write sparse disk image. Read-only disk image, read-only compressed image, and then Disk Utility says read-only, compressed, read-write, and DVD-CD master. Any guidance, and do you know of any problems with read-only compressed images? So your presumptions are all correct, and disk images are the way to go. This is the way to store those types of things on your Synology. I'm just going to say it out loud, even though when you stop and think through it, this will also make sense to you. you cannot boot from these disk images when they are sitting on your Synology, at least not without a lot of finagling. But creating them with either Carbon Copy Cloner or Disk Utility is going to be fine. I choose to do all mine with Carbon Copy Cloner, mainly because I create the job in Carbon Copy Cloner and then I leave it there. And all I have to do is change the source and destination, and I don't have to rethink all my options all the time. But your question made me sort of rethink my options. So I started looking at this, right? There's nothing wrong with compressed images, but they're normal images instead of sparse bundles. So they don't have the benefit of, well, I mean, they're not writable, nor are they resizable. But for what you're doing, that doesn't matter at all. And if Howard Oakley is to be trusted, Howard Oakley from the Eclectic Light Company, he has a thing about sparse bundles, especially with APFS, and says that there's some not so great stuff and some not so consistent things there. So maybe we should be using compressed read-only images for our cold storage in the end anyway. Over in network, I'm not sure which is more efficient, though, because sparse bundles, the compressed disk images, John, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're like one big file, whereas sparse bundles are bands of like, I don't know, 8 megs a piece or something. So I'm not, we would have to do some testing to figure out which is, if compressed disk images are less efficient, because the sparse bundles that I put on my disk station over the years have been great for this purpose. I can just double click them, they mount, it's all good. So, I don't know what the magic answer is, but there you have it. That's those are my thoughts. What do you think, John?
I actually do have some thoughts here.
Okay.
So one, I would not. I'm definitely. I would not choose read write, because I don't think archival cold storage should have the ability to be written to, because what if some malware comes along or something and then screws it up? So not even offering the option to change what's in it makes sense to me. And the other thing, when you've done this as long as I have and you have, compression makes me nervous, because what if the compression scheme that's being used all of a sudden falls out of favor?
Yeah. That's not a bad. Yeah. I mean, I would guess if you're compressing it with disk utility, there's some safety there, right? Like that Apple's not going to just abandon that. But
right. But I'm just thinking, like, remember Stuff It?
Yeah.
That was the greatest thing for a while. I think if you have a Stuff It archive, it's going to be a challenge dealing with that. I'm sure there are programs out that can deal with it.
I think Stuff It still exists. Doesn't it? Stuff It Expander. Yeah. Stuff It Expander 16 was updated a week ago. It's an M1 universal binary.
Okay, it's still out there.
It's still out
Excellent.
there. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I've used it. It just ran on my computer this morning because I downloaded a BZ2 archive to test some cool stuff found that we'll actually talk about in a minute. But it ran, but it was decompressing BZ2 archives. I'm assuming it would decompress Stuff It archives, but that's only an assumption. I could be wrong. It might not actually do Stuff It archives anymore, but I would guess.
Yeah, it's just I've working with stuff that's archived. I've had cases where I look at the file and look at the extension, and I'm like, "What the heck is this?"
Yeah.
Now, again, we're talking, things that are decades old, but
sure.
Same with graphic formats. Some of them fall out of favor. So to me, the most generic choice here is a read-only disk image.
Okay, I like it. Yeah,
But you've had success with something different. So
yeah, like I said, I want to test this with a disk image versus a sparse bundle to see what the efficiency is like transferring that, mounting that over a network volume. That would be the only thing I'd want to look at. So yeah.
All right. Speaking of long-term storage, Dave, Mark has a question. If I want to do long-term storage of files, which media would be better, an SSD or a spinning hard drive? Neither would be installed and powered up day to day. I know spinning hard drives need to be exercised from time to time, but is this the same for SSDs? And you'd think this would be a simple question, Dave, but it gets a bit complex. But we do have an article that we can share with you. Actually, it's done by the folks at Backblaze, which, as you may know, offers offsite archival storage or backup storage. And they have a little ditty that goes into detail about the reliability of various storage mediums, including the type of technology used in the SSD. I think both me and you, Dave, found that the early SSDs, rather than gracefully failing like a rotational drive, would just quit working.
I think that's true with current SSDs too. They just, when they're done, they're done. Like, that's it. You don't get much warning. They just go, right?
Yeah, like I was going through some of my old discs, and I had an old OCZ one, which I think is a Toshiba brand, or was a Toshiba brand. And when I tried to plug it into an external enclosure, it didn't even show up. It was totally dead. So, yeah. But but I have not had that happen with any of my current SSDs. So I think they are pretty reliable. My experience is mostly with Crucial and SanDisk. Now, the good news is that they report all sorts of parameters via SMART. And I think they also have, and now I remember where I saw this before. So if you bring up iStat menus and you click on the disk menu, mine right now, I'm looking at this on my Mac Mini, which has an SSD, and it's a 2018. Yes. It says SSD lifetime left 100%. So that's good. I'm actually surprised it's still at 100%. Right?
Yeah.
The machine's a couple of years old. So, but you may want to use something. So I found a good thing is to use something like DriveDX is a good utility that looks at the smart parameters, but it also has some intelligence and can tell you how close the drive is to throwing in the towel. And I've done this. DriveDX would come up with a drive, and it's like, yeah, it's at like 50%. You may want to toss it. So I would inspect the drives every now and then, maybe every month or every couple of months or every 6 months, 3 months. I don't know. Just to see if there is any degradation, because the one point that the article brings up, though, about rotational drives is that they tend to be more prone to, they're mechanical, and,
right?
You know, there's moving parts, and moving parts eventually stop moving. And I think they're also more susceptible to, like, you know, electromagnetic interference, where I don't think SSDs are as much. I mean, if you blast it with X-rays or something, I'm sure you'll toast it. But
yeah, well, yeah, of course, yeah. I would say SSDs are proving to be, generally speaking, more reliable than their rotational counterparts. But well, let me ask you this: have you seen any of the newer SSDs die yet?
No.
Okay, so I think we're still going to see them die the same way they always have, where they just, like, when the time is done, the time is done. Based on some notes in the chat room, they just die, and it's luck of the draw. And that's quoting Warren in the chat room at live.macgeekgab.com, but everybody else is kind of chiming in with the same thing. So I don't think it's that newer SSDs are any different in that regard. I think it's just that you haven't seen one die yet. And I would say they have gotten more reliable since that first wave of SSDs that we saw that, you know, maybe lasted a year or two, or 2 or 3 years maybe. So, yeah, I would, with anything, you have to assume that you're not going to get any warning before you are unable to get any data off of those, you know, whatever that storage medium is. So backup. That would be my advice on this one for sure. So, yeah. All right. You want to take us to Ed, man?
Yeah, man, I'm on a roll here.
Okay. You are on a roll. It's great.
Yeah, this is a good one. Ed says, I do woodworking as a hobby and use a lot of very loud equipment. I just got a pair of ISO-Tunes hearing protection headphones. or I think earphones, or maybe headphones, for Christmas. Now I can listen to the podcast while using my router, the one that cuts wood.
Right. Yeah, it's not, different kind of router. That's right.
Sometimes in between projects, my wife likes to come out and see how it's going. Instead of pulling out my IsoTune earbuds, they are earbuds, okay, I want to be able to hear her by back tapping my phone and activating the live listen accessibility feature. I can't seem to find a way to do that with a shortcut. Am I out of luck? Do I have to navigate through the settings app each time to activate live listen like a caveman? Please help. So I actually tried this too, Dave. So I found a handy little article here from Apple called Use Live Listen with AirPods, AirPods Pro, AirPods Max, or Powerbeats Pro. And they basically, their suggestion is that you can put Live Listen into Control Center.
Right.
So that's what I did. And then I went into accessibility, selected double tap, and one of the choices is Control Center. So I'm like, that's probably as good as it's going to get.
Yeah.
And it worked for me. Well, kind of. Here's the problem, which I think the article suggests here, is that when I tap on it, it says connect a compatible audio device to use Live Listen. And I don't have my earbuds in right now, but when I had my earbuds, which are non-Apple, it would still say connect compatible audio device.
There are some third-party devices that will work. Specifically, hearing aids are on that list. So, but as we've seen, right, like it's not just limited to hearing aids. It will work with some earbuds, including Apple's, and so I think it sounds from the way he worded his question that Ed has had success using IsoTunes with Live Listen. He just wanted a faster way to do it. And Control Center is that's spot on, man. That's how you do it. But yeah, Live Listen is kind of cool. I've done it, and I mean it's your iPhone's microphone just becomes the microphone for your things. Where I think it started life for hearing aids and then was added to AirPods over the years. But, the best example I've heard is, you're in a noisy restaurant and you can't hear the person that's across the table from you. So what you do is you each put an AirPod in, and then you put your respective phones on the other side of the table. So when you talk, you're talking into my phone. And when I talk, I'm talking into your phone, and it's just beaming it to our ears. So that'd be actually an interesting way. What a weird, social thing that would be. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I realize, I mean, for people that are, sorry, for people that are hearing disabled, it's perfect, or have issues with hearing, that's perfect. But I was thinking of it more as for people who could hear just fine, but want to tune out the din of a busy New York restaurant, which I realize is not a thing right now, but I wonder what that would be like. Anyway.
No, I think it still is. I think they have pods now, outdoor pods.
Yeah, but you wouldn't hear the din of a busy New York restaurant, right? Because you're in your pod.
You're indoors.
Yeah, because you're separated.
Oh, right.
From people.
So the pod helps.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
No,
but I'm just thinking about. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. All right. Where are we here? You want to take us to Harvey?
Harvey.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right. Harvey says, after updating my 2017 iMac to Catalina earlier this month, Time Machine stopped running. The error message is puzzling. Time Machine couldn't complete the backup to, name of backup drive. 2 of the disks to backup have the same name. Rename one of the disks named Macintosh 2017 HD. And then he gave us a picture from within disk utility. And sure enough, there seems to be only one partition with that name, or volume, I guess is a more proper term. So what's going on here? And you know what, Dave? I think Time Machine may not be telling you the entire, or disk utility may not be telling the entire truth.
Okay.
I mean, the good news, if you want to consider it good news, is that he's not alone. In that I found an Apple support thread where someone had the same time machine issue and was suggested that the user issue a certain terminal command, df space dash KT. And at some point, that actually did show duplicate dash data partitions. And I'll assume that was not shown in this utility. And I recall having a similar issue after installing Catalina in that I saw two data partitions. And in my case, I just deleted the much smaller one and everything was great.
Sure.
So I guess the first thing to try is rename that partition. I think if you right click on it and say rename, call it something different and maybe that'll fix it. But my concern is that there may be something not quite right underneath it all. So I think you may want to actually re-roll that drive, create a clone, wipe that drive, and then copy the clone back. Because I don't think the fact that it thinks that this is an issue, just that would be my course of action, would be to redo that drive.
Yeah, if you can't delete it in disk utility, I agree. There might be something, but you should be able to look in the I'm typing while I'm doing this here. If you go to the terminal and you type diskutil list, that should show you what's going on here. And I'm looking to see, yeah, I see one data partition on my boot drive. There are 5 total I guess volumes on my boot drive. I don't want to say partition because it's the wrong term, because it's an APFS drive. But it says on dev disk 2, which is my boot disk, that there are 6 partitions. Sorry, there's the one called APFS container scheme, which is partition or volume 0. And then there are volumes 1 through 5. The first 2 are my data and not data volumes. And then there's pre-boot, recovery, and VM. So yeah, that's where I would look next, is run diskutil space list from the command line from the terminal and see what that says. And if that shows you 2, but disk utility itself does not, then things aren't right. You could try first, make a backup, then you could try removing it with the diskutil terminal command too. So that would be another way to do it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Speaking of Time Machine, we had a late arrival quick tip, John, from listener John in the chat room, who says that if you go into System Preferences, Time Machine, and you have multiple backup destinations there, which you can do, and it will theoretically kind of sort of round robin between them. But if you want to force a backup to a specific Time Machine destination in that list, if you have more than one, go there, System Preferences, Time Machine, right-click on the one that you want to back up to, and you will be presented with an option to immediately start a backup to that destination, which that's pretty cool. So thanks for the quick tip, John. Very good. Live.macgeekgab.com. You guys can join too. Or you can just go
not getting that.
Really?
Huh.
And do you have multiple destinations in your...
No, okay.
That's
Maybe
why.
That's it.
You have to... Yeah, you have to be in the... Because otherwise you could just trigger a backup, right?
Mm-hmm,
So that's pretty good. Yeah, good. All right. Listener Mike chimes in with a question. He says, arriving soon for me is a brand new Intel iMac with a 1 terabyte SSD. I'm wondering about a plan for my migration. I'm coming from an early 2014 MacBook Air with a 500 gig SSD and a 350 gig attached storage drive. The Air has about 50 gigs free, so 450 gigs total on it. And the attached USB is a Glyph USB 3 2 terabyte rotational drive, mostly holding my music. The music-related media includes MP3 and MP4, iTunes. He says I still use Match and associated documents. I make a clone every week of the built-in drive on the 2014 Air using Carbon Copy Cloner. I want to stop using the external drive if possible and put it all on the new machine. I use a few music-related software tools from like Amazing Slowdowner and a Roland interface. He says, I really want to take the opportunity to organize the attached drive material as I have just been dumping data almost always with tags for years on it. What should I do? Should I nuke and pave? Should I use Migration Assistant? And what about that extra 350 gigs? I'm not sure that the new machine is Big Sur, but I assume it will be. I'm also assuming that the external drive cannot become the new clone, correct? Yeah. He says, should I use it for Time Machine? Is Time Machine even a thing in Big Sur? Yes, it is. I look forward to hearing your ideas. So these are great questions, and there's never only one correct answer in scenarios like this. As I see it, you have two paths, right? You have the Migration Assistant path, and this would be, for you in your scenario, a two-step process, right? First, you'd let Migration Assistant do its thing and slurp over all the data from your boot drive on the 2014 Air to the new iMac. And then you'd connect your Glyph drive to the new Mac. And from that point, you'd manually copy the files to their new homes on your internal drive. And you could change your app's pointers as you go. If it's only iTunes music or music, you could use the Consolidate Library feature. What that does is it takes all of your media, no matter where it is, and it can be in multiple locations, and it pulls it all together to whatever you have set to be your music media location in the music or iTunes app. So you would launch iTunes, you would set the default music location to be the internal drive now, even though it's pointing to the external drive for specific files, perhaps all of your specific files, but that's fine. Then you choose Consolidate Library, and it's going to copy, not move, copy them all to that one location. You could do some spot checking to make sure you've got what you need. And if it's only your music library, then that would work. Otherwise, you're doing manual copies and that sort of thing over. So that's one way of doing it, essentially, riding on top of Migration Assistant. The other way is let that new iMac be started from scratch and manually migrate everything. And then you'd be reorganizing things sort of as a byproduct of this, as long as you have the time. And given that this is a 2014 Air, and given that you're moving from one type of machine, a laptop, to a different type of machine, a desktop, I would say this might be a really good opportunity to rethink how you do things, and it might be a really good opportunity for a nuke and pave. It does take a little bit of extra time, though. So if you don't have the time, then this is not the right, moment to do this. But otherwise, that's where my gut would lean. But there's nothing wrong with Migration Assistant. As we pointed out on the show, it does really, really well. So yeah, those are my 10 cents. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Okay. Yeah, all right, cool. All right, you want to take us to Robert here, John?
Yes.
Cool.
All right. What does Robert have? All right, Robert has a couple of questions that he hopes I may be able to answer, having to do with issues on his MacBook. He has, like me, a 2019, I think it's actually a 2020.
Okay.
Right? MacBook Pro 16-inch.
No, it's a 2019.
Core.
Right? Didn't that come out in 2019? Yeah.
Oh, maybe it did. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
late 2019. Yeah.
Ah, right. Okay. But I got mine in 2020.
Correct.
Running an i9 8-core and 16 gigs of RAM. So hope you have some insight. First, RAM usage. Having only owned this machine since November, I'm still learning what is normal. Perhaps you could confirm what I'm seeing is typical for this machine. On a recent episode, you mentioned the utility EUL. Ooh. Okay, so I installed it to show me certain stats regarding what the machine is up to, much like iStat menus. It's constantly reporting the RAM usage at around 10 gigs, even when performing light tasks. Is this consistent with your machine? I am not noticing performance issues. The machine is great, just wonder if this is normal. I do run an external monitor most of the time, but disconnecting this doesn't change it. And here's a screenshot. So that's item number one. Item number two, battery health. Another thing I am concerned about is the battery health, which is already down to 93%. As I mentioned, I run an external monitor setup using a Cable Matters hub that I purchased for use with my previous MacBook 13-inch. Is it possible that I am damaging the battery life because I am not using a hub which can facilitate the full charging capability? I thought that it would just charge slower as it is a lower wattage, but I'm now concerned because 7% loss and only 2 months seems excessive. Again, the MacBook doesn't move often at the moment for obvious reasons. Only when I go down to the cellar to record drums. Ooh.
Fun.
All right. And lastly, AirDrop hogs resources. While writing, another thing is that this machine is struggling with airdropping photos between my iPhone 11 Pro or iPad Pro first gen to the MacBook. Is this a problem you've had? The fans ramp right up and the sheer, well, that's another process. So hold on. And a certain process takes over the whole machine and I get the spinning beach ball of death. And if I'm extremely patient, it will finally come through, but generally I am not. I just want this to work as it should. So let's knock these down, knock these out of the park, maybe. I don't know. Let me go back. So, all right, so RAM usage. With normal usage, I also see about 10 gigs used. And the screenshot that he showed showed low memory pressure. Memory pressure will come up as green if it's okay. If it's not green, then I think what's happening is it's doing a lot of memory compression, which is another thing that can happen. And his swap was very low as well. So on RAM, I think you're good. As for the battery health, that's not so good. Being at 93% after 2 months doesn't sound right. I'm at 85% after nearly a year and 500 charge cycles. So for charging that machine, I think you should be using a device, Apple or otherwise, that supports power delivery. And I don't know if his hub or whatever it is supports that. One candidate would be the 85-watt charger that it comes with, which it says right on it, power delivery. I would also look in system preferences, battery, and make sure optimized battery charging and battery health, manage battery longevity are enabled. And as for AirDrop, he meant sharing D. So sharing D is the process that handles all of this stuff. And you can do a man page to see that. All I can say, Dave, is I tried beaming stuff from both my iDevices, and it happened in literally seconds, like less than 5 seconds. The only thing I can think of is AirDrop uses both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, so maybe toggle them off and on again, or you know, restart the machine. I can't think of anything else that would solve that. So that's what I got. What do you think?
Well, the first thing I wanted to do was qualify what I agree with you that his swap usage from the screenshot that only you and I get to see is what I would classify as very low and not of concern. To give everybody else some perspective, I look at swap, and if it's a gigabyte used or below, I don't even think about it. 2 gigs, I might not think about it. Above that, and clearly something's been using it more than it needs to, so, or using more RAM than I would like it to be using, and I dig a little bit deeper. But he was at, I think he was even at less than 500 megabytes used, so that would be that's my metric. 1 gig and lower, it's not even worth a conversation about worrying about how much swap is used. And then in terms of his charging, anything that will charge your computer is using power delivery. So you don't need to worry. Power delivery just describes the ability to send power over a USB-C connection. And of course, that's the only way you'd charge that computer. So his Cable Matters hub most definitely supports power delivery. He wouldn't need a new charger unless there's some malfunction with his, but I don't think there is. I think it's probably, I mean, it's hard to say with his battery health where it started. It's at 93% after 2 months, but where was it on day 0? Was it at 100%? If it's dropping that quickly, right? Like A-Bing this would be more relevant. Like I'd be really curious to see where it is at the 6-month mark. 93% in and of itself isn't terrible. That machine may have started at 94 or 95. They don't all start at 100. So I would keep an eye on it and see where it is at the 6-month mark, because if it's dropping precipitously.
And our pal Fruit Juice will show you
totally.
A historical graph of
yeah.
which I implemented that as soon as I got this machine here. And actually when I activated some of these enhanced battery handling features, I've actually seen the number go up, which seems kind of weird, but
yeah, I've seen them go up too. Yeah, exactly. If you don't want to run fruit juice full time, there's a utility called Coconut Battery that's really handy that you can run as, sort of on demand, and it will do the same thing. You can save a history log. Cool part about Coconut Battery is you can also connect it to you can connect your Mac to your iPhone, and Coconut Battery will maintain a battery history of your iPhone's battery too. So you get to look back at that over time. So I think you get to see some more details in Coconut Battery as compared to fruit juice too. So, but they're like, I see them as complementary utilities. So yeah. All right. Anything more on that one, John?
The third one. So someone in the chat room said I would take the iPhone, iPad, Mac off of Wi-Fi and see if AirDrop works via Bluetooth. I don't know if AirDrop works on only Bluetooth. I think it does need both.
Well,
right?
It uses both, but the Wi-Fi connection for AirDrop is an ad hoc connection directly between the two devices. Even if you're both associated with a Wi-Fi network, it does not use that Wi-Fi network. It creates a connection, and I believe it creates it on channel 136. That's where it used to create it. I'm not sure if that has changed, but that would be. But so disassociating from Wi-Fi might be the answer. But I think if you turn off Wi-Fi, I don't think AirDrop will work. So you can disassociate from your access point. I've done AirDrop, as I'm sure many people have, sitting. I remember being at Disney World and sitting on a bus, going to some park or back to the hotel or whatever. And a friend of mine was across and he took a picture and he's like, "Oh, can you AirDrop that?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so we did. And it works fine, without there being a Wi-Fi network around. But I think you need to have Wi-Fi on. I think it uses Bluetooth to find things as like the beginning of the process, and then Wi-Fi for the high speed, like beaming of it all. So yeah, cool. All right. We have some cool stuff found to get to, John, and we have time to get to it, which makes me excited. The next thing that I want to do though, is I want to tell you about our final two sponsors, if that's okay.
Tell me.
All right. Look, we are all about productivity here. We are all about tips. And you can get ahead of your productivity for the new year with the power of TextExpander, our first sponsor here. TextExpander is awesome. I use it all the time because it removes the repetition out of work so that you can focus on what matters most, right? So you get to say goodbye to all that repetitive text entry, all the spelling errors, the message errors, and most of all, trying to remember the right thing to say, because when you use TextExpander, you can say the right thing in just a few keystrokes because you've already figured out what you're going to say. This is great for those things like customer service responses. And let's face it, sometimes even our families need customer service type, like FAQ type responses, right? So you get to put all this stuff together. And instead of, when somebody asks you a question, instead of digging into your sent folder to find that answer, you just go pull it out of TextExpanders. It's way better than copy and paste, better than scripts and templates, because TextExpander snippets allow you to maximize your time by getting rid of the repetitive things you type while still customizing and personalizing your messages. So go check it out, textexpander.com/podcast, because show listeners get 20% off their first year. And what better way to start 2021? Our thanks to TextExpander for sponsoring this episode. Next up is BBEdit from Barebones Software at barebones.com, because we love BBEdit. I mean, yes, they're a sponsor, but we also love BBEdit. It's open on my Mac right now. I was going to say it's open on my Macs right now, and that is true. Right now, we're using it. We process the show notes with it. BBEdit is a text editor, and there's something beautiful about truly just being able to edit in text. It's great for being able to count words in a document. It's great for being able to compare two documents. And of course, it's great for any programming. And that includes like HTML or CSS or JavaScript or anything like that that you need to do. Well, right now, Barebones is running their BBEdit Yojimbo 2020 holiday bundle. And this is a very special thing because you get both BBEdit and Yojimbo. So BBEdit, I've just talked to you about. Yojimbo makes it easy to store, encrypt, and retrieve all kinds of data, passwords, PDFs, images, and more, and uses iCloud now to sync between your Macs. So if it's been a while, you might want to check this out. The BBEdit Yojimbo 2020 holiday bundle at barebones.com/holiday bundle. And our thanks to Barebones for sponsoring this episode. All right, John, I found a cool stuff found that, and I'm honestly not sure where I stumbled onto it, but it's called Silicon Info. It's available either in the Mac App Store or you can get it direct from the developer. It's free. It sits in your menu bar. Oh, I saw it in Homebrew. I did an update to Homebrew, and I saw that cask was added. And so I'm like, well, I must install this. So I did. It puts a little thing in your menu bar. It's only relevant for people with M1 Macs because it puts an icon of a CPU in your menu bar and it fills it in when the frontmost app is Apple Silicon, and it leaves it empty when the frontmost app is running through Rosetta because it's an Intel app. So you can know at a glance, am I in a native app or am I in a Rosetta app? And of course, the fact that you would need a utility to tell you this speaks volumes to how well Apple did with making Apple Silicon like work smoothly, because otherwise I wouldn't know. Most of my apps are already Apple Silicon, which is another amazing feat. But there are still a few that I run that are Intel. So this will tell you, which makes it fun. I don't know. It's cool stuff. That's what we do. Cool stuff found. JP started out as a geek challenge, believe it or not, because he was having all kinds of problems with duplicates in his iTunes library. One way to fix these, and it might work, is to use iTunes or Apple Music. Go to the File menu, go to Library, and choose Show Duplicate Items, or with the Option key held down, Show Exact Duplicate Items. And then you can highlight them and delete them, but make sure not to delete the wrong ones, right? So make a backup of your library first. But he found a better answer, making this a cool stuff found instead of a geek challenge, and it is TunesMechanic. And of course, there's a link in the show notes. It's also available on the App Store. It works with both iTunes and music. And it's basically a super advanced duplicate remover. It also will fix those dead links in your iTunes music library. So this goes beyond just the duplicates. It'll remove empty playlists. You can use it to reset song ratings. So yeah, I have not used it yet, but this is one of those utilities that I'm definitely going to keep in the arsenal here. He said it worked really well for him on his large library. So thanks for sharing that, JP. I always love it when people's questions get answered. It's even nicer when it turns into a cool stuff found. So I like it. I like it when there's a utility to fix a problem. So thanks for that, JP. You want to take us to Ben, John?
Yes. Ben asks, do y'all know about CardHop? It's the contacts app from FlexiBits, makers of Fantastical. I've been using it on my Mac since it was released in 2017. I love how easily I can create new contacts with natural language and smart labeling. Additionally, I can copy exactly the contact info I want to share outside the app, and I can call known contacts at the desired number by label or even random phone numbers. Like S-Lady, CardHop also translates words into numbers, such as in 224-888 geek, which is 4335. We got that out of the way.
Cool.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, I'm surprised. When that came in, I looked in our database where we track the things that we've mentioned, and I just assumed that we had already mentioned CardHop because we've mentioned many other things from FlexiBits over the years, but no, we never have. So that is a new one. The next thing up on the cool stuff found list is Netgear's Orbi 6, which I've had the pleasure of checking out over the last few weeks here. Netgear, you know, the Orbi, we've talked about the Orbi on the show, the initial Orbi, the Wi-Fi 5 Orbi, on the show several times over the years. And it really was the winner for the long haul, backhaul between mesh points, right? That if you needed that kind of, if you needed a lot of distance, especially if you've got like an outbuilding that you don't have Ethernet buried, you know, between your house and the outbuilding, the Netgear Orbi, the Wi-Fi 5 one, was certainly, you know, the best thing to choose in that environment. And that remains with the Wi-Fi 6 version of the Orbi here. Across my driveway, so I have a perfect scenario to test all this, of course. The house, you know, my office is about 75 feet across the driveway. So I had the Orbi unit on this side, the office side of the house, on the second floor, but inside the house. And then I had another one here in my office, but at the back of the office on the, you know, on the first floor. So buried kind of in things. And I consistently got 330 megabits per second in both directions between the two, which, I mean, I've never seen that before with anything Wi-Fi. And that's Wi-Fi 6 doing its job, right? So this is one of those scenarios where Wi-Fi 6 is, even if you didn't have any Wi-Fi 6 client devices, having the mesh do Wi-Fi 6 for your backhaul makes a huge difference. And then I was getting, you know, similar connections with my client devices too. You know, it'll do double hop if it has to. Obviously, that's not as efficient. But even with a double hop connection with my laptop on Wi-Fi on yet another access point, I was still getting like 200 up and down that way. It was impressive. And all of those issues that we had seen in the past with Orbis not dealing with multi-hop properly or not dealing with Ethernet backhaul, I experienced exactly zero of those. So they have finally sorted all that out, which is impressive to me. Another thing with the Orbi, John, is it's all local access. So you manage it by logging into it locally. It has inbound VPN, which most mesh routers do not have built in. And it supports WAN aggregation. So if you have a faster than gigabit cable modem, you can, you know, plug 2 Ethernet ports in and get that faster than gigabit connection to your Orbi. So yeah, I was impressed with this thing. And I was using the one that it's tri-band, but it is a 4x4. It has 2 5 gigahertz radios and one 2.4. The 2.4 and one of the 5 gigahertz radios are 2x2. So those are meant for client-facing devices. And then there's the 4x4 5 gigahertz radio that is primarily used for backhaul. Well, primarily intended for backhaul, but it will use it for other things if it deems that appropriate. So yeah, I was pretty impressed with the Orbi. You know, to be fair, I have not always been impressed by Orbi over the years, and this one, they certainly figured out how to deliver this. So yeah, it's you know, yet another contender in the Wi-Fi 6 space here, which is great. Any questions on that, John, before you move us on to listener Dave?
Nope.
All right, cool.
Nope. So Dave offers two. Oh, wait, that was 3. 2 cool stuffs found in one. First, a website with detailed and readable documentation for configuring, operating, and troubleshooting LaunchAgents and LaunchDaemons. And that's www.Launchd.info. Launchd being the process that spins up all sorts of things when you start up your machine. And actually, if you poke around on your machine, Dave, I believe it's in system.
It's in 4 places.
LaunchAgents and LaunchDaemons folders on your machine. And if you want to, you can open them up and see all of the files that are used for launching all sorts of things when your machine starts up. So don't touch them. What you should do instead is use a utility. So this is a second tip. Use a utility called LaunchControl for configuring and managing your LaunchAgents and your LaunchDaemons. And it's $18, and we'll link to where we can get it. So some additional commentary. The website is very, very well written. Anyone interested in the nuts and bolts of scheduling work with LaunchD would be well advised to visit it. It gives examples for configuring LaunchAgents by hand and also using LaunchControl. The utility app LaunchControl is kind of like Lingon, but it's very full-featured with lots of debugging and troubleshooting support. If you're doing anything serious with LaunchControl, LaunchAgents, or LaunchDaemons, then I highly recommend it. I was moving a LaunchAgent from Mojave to Catalina, and I just could not get it to run. I used Lingon in the past, but had some issues with it. So I taught myself how to configure LaunchD jobs by hand. Not a problem, and it worked fine for me up through Mojave, but something was preventing this job from succeeding. This particular job executed a bash script that made a local copy of some data from a cloud service. When I loaded LaunchControl, the app immediately recognized the job had been failing and made a number of suggestions for repair and troubleshooting. Working through those, I found the problem and got it working. The ultimate problem was that bin/bash did not have full disk access. Thank you, Catalina.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we found that is, you want to, some things you wouldn't expect to require full disk access do. I think terminal is another one, Dave.
Yeah.
For some things.
Yep.
So normally you wouldn't, so he says, normally you would not want to grant the bash shell full disk access, as that is a security concern. LaunchControl provides a companion utility called FDA util, full disk access utility, that you can use to grant full disk access to a particular invocation of a bash script or any other shell script. Using that utility, my job is now running successfully as scheduled under Catalina. A small thing perhaps, but I spent several hours troubleshooting before I stumbled onto LaunchControl. I found it well worth the money because it solved the problem for me and probably saved me another few hours troubleshooting, and likely avoided a cry for help to Mac Geek Gab.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dave. Yeah, I haven't. It's cool that it makes suggestions, because I think Lingon is, I think Lingon pretty much just lets you fill in the blanks, but I don't think it does anything really beyond that. So if you make a mistake, it's
going to let you. Yeah.
It's going to let you. Yeah. It assumes you know what you're doing.
It assumes you know what you're doing. Yeah. 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 So, this launch, I mean, I want to check out LaunchControl for sure. That looks to be really interesting. But this LaunchD.info, or I should say, and this LaunchD.info website, if you want to edit your own LaunchDaemons or edit somebody else's or create your own, this is a great resource. Just looking through this, it shows you how they're laid out, what they do. I mean, it's fantastic. Really well done. I'd never seen this before. So thank goodness to listener Dave for sending this in. That's great, man. John, I had to get a new doorbell. My Ring doorbell works great for us here, but we got a new door, and the guy who spec'd out the door for us, there were many problems with the process of getting this new door, including figuring out a contractor that we won't be hiring again. But the door that he spec'd out for us had the door frame wasn't wide enough for us to put our Ring doorbell in. And when I asked him, can you build a little thing so that we can mount it? He was like, well, no, I don't know. I don't do doorbells. Literally said that to us. He puts in doors, installs them all the time. I don't do doorbells. Cool. But so I had to find a doorbell that was thinner than my Ring doorbell, and I found one, the Eufy Wired Video Doorbell HDR 2K, and it works great. It fits perfectly. Some cool things with it, though, that it has its own ringer module that you just plug into an AC outlet, so you can control where that goes, and you don't have to use the one that's built into your house, or even if there is one built into your house, right? You don't need that. And then we've got them linked with our A-ladies, because we've got a bunch of those all over the house from, the Amazon A-ladies. So it tells us that the doorbell has rung. The unfortunate part is that while most Eufy cameras are HomeKit video compatible, the doorbell is not. So I am not able to link it up with HomeKit directly yet. There's some rumblings that there might be a software update, but obviously not yet. The Homebridge plugin for Eufy is new, so they haven't quite gotten it there. So hopefully they can maybe get some help from the Eufy folks to get that over the hump, or maybe Eufy will just do it, and make HomeKit work. But the doorbell itself works great. It's got a killer image on it, and it, night mode and all that stuff. So I was pretty stoked to find it. So,
yeah, I got one too.
Yeah, right. Is that the same one you have? I knew you had a Eufy doorbell. I wasn't sure if it was that same one. They've got quite a few. So,
yes. The only thing that concerned me is that they require you to disconnect your existing chime or ringer.
Okay.
Or at least that's what they said in the instructions, and I trusted them. And,
yeah.
It was pretty straightforward, right?
We basically did the same thing. Yeah, we jumpered it so that it bypasses it. That's right. Yep.
Yeah, but the fact that you get a ringer module where you can pick them, and I think they even offered some holiday ringtones and stuff.
They did recently, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, the A lady says someone's at the door.
Right.
It's also kind of cool. The other thing I found, Dave, is that for me, the ring that I had, I'm close to the street, and the thing was detecting. I think they've improved their algorithm since then, but the Eufy is almost perfect.
Wow!
In that it only detects pretty much the mailman or whoever's at the front door. Actually, every day it sees the mailman or the Amazon or whoever's bringing me presents.
Right, right.
No, their algorithm is very good. It lets you define the area that it will pay attention to.
Yeah, right. Right.
And yeah, the video is pretty amazing for such a tiny camera.
Yeah, I was really blown away. Right. It's and the installation was really straightforward. So which is great. Yep, it's good. I have been long a fan of creating website specific applications. I think I used an app called Fluid for years, and I use them for like our show and other podcasts that I do, because we use Google Docs as a shared resource. So if you come to the chat room at live.macgeekgab.com, there's a link there that you can actually see the agenda for the show. And many folks, thank goodness, help us by adding links and those sorts of things. So it's a shared Google Doc. But I don't want to have that launched in Safari or any other browser. I want to have a separate app for that. And so I like to use something that will create that app. Fluid was great up until recently, and now it just hasn't been updated. And so I've been messing with two new apps, both from BZG apps. They are Coherence X, which might be Coherence 10, I'm not sure, and Unite. And so it creates these, site-specific browser tools, and they work extremely well. One of them, Unite, uses WebKit, so basically the Safari engine, and Coherence uses Chromium, the Chrome engine. So the way my workflow works, I've been happier with Unite than Coherence, but they're both there, and they're what I've been using for the last several weeks to do the show, and it's been flawless. So very, very, very cool utilities. So I wanted to put them out there since it's something I'm actually finding myself relying on. I figured other people might appreciate hearing about this. And speaking of Chromium, John, I have found that Microsoft Edge is the best Chromium browser for the Mac for me. Chrome, it winds up using way too much CPU and way too much battery, at least in terms of what I'm seeing here. And Microsoft Edge is killing it. It's really super efficient. It works with, Safari has some weird issues with some Chromium stuff, especially like Google Meet and Google Hangouts and stuff. It's way better to run that in a Chrome browser, which is no great surprise, right? It's Google tech, so makes sense that Chromium would be better. So I've been using Microsoft Edge for probably the last 6 months for that stuff. And it's been flawless, man. So much better than Chrome. And Edge Canary, which is their nightly builds or weekly builds or something, their beta, test version or whatever, is M1, built for Apple Silicon. So you can run it native on Apple Silicon. But even the regular one runs fine. Like honestly, I don't notice the difference. So yeah, Microsoft Edge. And I've been using that to do the show too. I keep our video stream windows open in a different browser, and I switched from using Chrome to Edge, and CPU usage went down just doing the same thing. So I've been very, very, very happy with that stuff. So I figured I'd share. I don't know. Have you messed with Edge at all, John?
It's on my MacBook Pro. I should probably put it on this one as well. Yeah.
And it doesn't have that weird Google updater that runs, so you can kill that thing off and not have to worry about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called. Yeah, there's some background process.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, Edge does its own weird updater because it like wants to run the Microsoft updater and all that stuff, which is fine, but at least it tells you that it wants to run that. It's not like kicking it off every 108 minutes. Like, you got to type in the codes. Otherwise the island blows up. Wait, but that's wrong. That's a different thing.
It's called, for those that are curious, I thought it was called this, but I just confirmed it. Keystone is the name of the engine that does sneaky things in the background. And if you search for that, you'll probably find ways to disable it if you like, because I personally don't like updates that are applied behind my back.
Yeah, although I do understand why you want to keep a browser as up to date as possible with all the secure. I mean, I get why Google does it. It's just been a little weird. I used I used Lingon to disable the LaunchD items that trigger Keystone, and there were 2 of them on my Macs, and so I've turned those off. And occasionally I go check and make sure that they've remained off, and then I can just have Google do its own updates. It's fine. So yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all that's the time we have for today, my friend. It's time to bring the band in. By hook or by crook, we made it through this episode, John. I wasn't so sure when we were fighting with getting our video connection to work, but it seems like we made it, which is good. I'm glad. Very glad, in fact. All right. Do you have any lasting places you want to, anything you'd like to ask people to do before we wrap this up, John?
If you have a question, tip, whatever, I would ask you to send it to feedback@macgeekgab.com.
Did you say feedback@macgeekgab.com?
I absolutely said feedback@macgeekgab.com. We already gave you the we gave you the phone number earlier on.
We did. That's right. Yeah, that's good. Cool. Well, yeah, send us your stuff. This is how the show happens. So we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have your review. MacGeekUp.com/reviews. That gets us. That's the closest we can get you to where you can leave a review, and those reviews really do mean a lot to us. So if you haven't left one, please go leave us one. We would love it. It really, really helps. Thanks to all of our sponsors, of course. Helix Mattresses at helixsleep.com/MGG, mintmobile.com/MGG, textexpander.com/podcast, barebones.com/holiday bundle. Thanks to all of you for listening. Thanks to, of course, CashFly for providing the bandwidth to get the show from us to you. Thanks to all of our ongoing sponsors. Smile. Well, they were in this episode. Otherworld Computing at maxsales.com, linode.com/MGG, eero.com/MGG. Yeah. And Happy New Year, everybody. Here we go again. John, I got us into this mess. I think we're going to get us out. Help.
I'm going to get us out and recommend to everyone in this new year, don't get caught.
Made on back.
And we're out. Cool.